Hello and welcome back to another episode of DevOps for Everyone. My name is Joe Bignall, the Kubernetes recruiter and founder and host of DevOps for Everyone. Today I'm joined by Amir from ARMO. How you doing, Amir?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Good to see you. Good to meet you. And thanks very much for joining us today. You're in Israel, is that right?
I'm in Tel Aviv. Yeah, I'm now in Tel Aviv in Israel.
Tel Aviv. Okay, great. So today, just for everybody listening live and everybody watching the recording, we're going to find out who Amir is. We're going to find out who ARMO are. We're going to see a demo. Any questions, as always, throw them in the chat box. I'm sure Amir would love to be able to answer some of your questions. And as always, as well, which typically happens, if people wish to follow up, then Amir can be found on the usual places, LinkedIn, I guess Twitter as well, and obviously through the ARMO website. So, without any further ado, people know who I am, hopefully by now. But Amir, would you love to just give a bit of an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Amir Kaushansky. I'm the VP product at ARMO, the company behind Kubescape. I'm doing cybersecurity for the past, 20 years. I started in a company called Checkpoint back, in the old days when it wasn't even called cybersecurity, and moved on and did a lot of roles. But my current cloud Kubernetes experience is from around 4 or 5 years ago. I love it. I think that Kubernetes is the future, and I'm excited every time that we see a new release. I'm very excited.
So Checkpoint did you kind of see a way that security could be done in a different way, and that's what prompted the founding of ARMO?
So actually, I think that today, if you look at companies, at the ecosystem, it's my observation. Okay, so it's totally my observation. You see that most of the companies are really focused on cloud. Some say that they have something involving Kubernetes, but it's actually that they're taking the data that they can take from cloud. Most of the companies are not doing anything when it comes to really double clicking on Kubernetes. Right, you see the Palo Altos, you see the Checkpoints, Trend Micro, all these security companies, even the small startups that started with container security, they grew up to cloud security. They raised large amount of money. Aquasec, they all moved to cloud, and no one really double clicks on Kubernetes, understands the manifest files, the connection between the different objects in Kubernetes, the control channel, which requires a special dedicated treatment, and that's what we do at ARMO. I think that if we look at clouds today, the majority of cloud is VMs, VPCs, virtual networks, etc. But the end game for cloud, in my opinion, is that we will get to a state where you will have Kubernetes or something which is around Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes or of some sort, and serverless, which, if you think about it, serverless is can also be built on top of Kubernetes with Knative and things like that. So, in my opinion, Kubernetes will conquer the world, and that's where I think we should be as a community, and we should make sure that people, Kubernetes is not secure by default. It's so complex, and we're trying to bridge this gap. We're trying to help users not make stupid mistakes that will cost them their jobs, loss of data, and frustration. So that's my 2 cents.
It's really interesting, Amir, when you say that security isn't like a baked in, because one thing that you hear common, or a common phrase you often hear, is day 2 security, and by then it could potentially be too late because of, like you say, data breach. Someone's made a mistake, and then there has to be a head spinning for it or whatever reason. So you're addressing that issue.
No, I think that security, when we talk about cloud security and Kubernetes security, I mean, a few years ago, before I joined Checkpoint, and someone told me, you're being recruited for a cloud security at Checkpoint. I said, cloud security, how is it different from security in general? And I can tell you now that, in my opinion, one of the major differences when it comes to cloud security versus traditional security is the speed. And when we talk about cloud security, we talk about a certain cadence. Things come and go. It's very dynamic, as an environment. When we talk about Kubernetes security, I always refer to it as cloud security on steroids, right? It's changing so fast, so fast that you can't even stop and ask who is talking with whom. How should I apply policy? If it's not dynamic, and if it's not fast, and if it's not, we are now seeing the era of CI/CDs and infrastructure as code and all these acronyms, and companies are moving to adopt these technologies, and everything is moving really, really fast, and your security should move as fast as that. So if you're not taking care of it, you end up at day 2 staying naked without security, and that's a bad idea, because the attackers are getting more sophisticated, and we need to be more sophisticated as well.
So on that point of the adoption of CI/CD and a number of new acronyms, what's your opinion and what are your thoughts on DevSecOps?
I think that it makes perfect sense. I mean, I met a lot of CISOs when I was in Checkpoint and in recent years, and there is a huge gap between the traditional security persona, and the DevOps persona. I mean, the security persona, he is used to a certain procedure, right? He's used to certain tools and capabilities that helps him cope with security in an enterprise world. But now things are changing, and he doesn't understand Kubernetes. He doesn't understand infrastructure as code. He doesn't understand how this thing works. And the DevOps persona, he wants to run really, really fast. He wants to create scripts and delete environments and create environments. And these two, they're not working together. And at the end of the day, the enterprise is paying the price of getting breached or getting stalled in the innovation process. So I think that getting to DevSecOps is inevitable. We see a lot of today when I talk with a lot of DevOps people, I see that they're starting to get knowledge on security. I don't think that it's not mandatory that it's their passion to do that, but it's like they're mandated to do that. So they learn about it, they read about it, they get involved. But I think that creating this persona, DevSecOps, that is between development and between DevOps and security makes a lot of sense. And I think that we will see more and more people getting to this direction.
Yeah, I can certainly agree to that as well from my standpoint. So I see things from a recruiter standpoint, right? So DevSecOps is becoming a lot more of a required skill set. But it's not one of those skill sets that's available widely. So there's people learning DevSecOps, there's training, but there's also kind of hiring security engineers and then training them on DevOps rather than DevOps and training on security. I find it security being trained on DevOps rather than the other way around.
I think that in general, there is a shortage in the market of skilled people. I mean, cloud, if you think about Kubernetes, for example, it's a project that started in 2015. We until 2018, it was not clear who's the chosen orchestrator. I think that in 2018, somewhere in the end of 2018, it was clear that Kubernetes conquered the world, and it's the chosen orchestrator. And it's only 4 years ago. That's it. So people are still getting used to Kubernetes, and I think that with this shortage of people, of skilled people, and with the shortage of people understanding security, it's a great challenge to find someone who understands cloud, security, Kubernetes all together. You're looking for a ninja that has the ability to do other stuff than just being a ninja. And I can tell you that I'm looking for product managers in my team, and we look for developers in ARMO. And it's hard. It's hard to find people that has all these skill sets. So sometimes I prefer to take people that understand DevOps, that did a DevOps role, and grow them to understand Kubernetes security and product management, instead of getting a product and training him on Kubernetes, because I think that sometimes it's harder to understand the technology if you don't have the mind for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we have to do as well as a community, not just you, is that we have to try and actually look past the CV, look past the current experience to a certain extent and realize, okay, this is the kind of person that I need. But if they don't exist in the market, what can I mesh together? What kind of abilities can I mesh together to create the ninja, as you call it? So yeah, trust me, you're preaching to the choir. It's a tough job at the moment, but it's an interesting one because there's always so many new things coming out that clients are looking for. As you said right at the top of this podcast, this episode, is that it's Kubernetes is so complex. So you could have 15 requirements from 15 different companies around Kubernetes, and they're all wildly different.
Yeah.
So, Amir, just before we move on to the demo, do you want to give a real sort of high-level overview of the company, the problem that you're addressing, the problem you're trying to solve, and then a couple of use cases, and then we'll go on to the demo?
Yeah, so we are ARMO, and we are an open source company, and that's the cool thing about us. Everything we do is open source, and we started KubeScape. We released the first version of KubeScape almost a year ago. We have thousands of users that are using the product. It's an end-to-end Kubernetes security platform. That's where we want to go. Right now, it is mostly doing KSPM, Kubernetes Security Posture Management. And I think that what we did during this year, we created an amazing product that gives you the ability to manage your Kubernetes easily, and that's the point. I mean, we have thousands of users. I didn't talk with most of them, but they still work with the product and enjoy it, and that's in my opinion, the amazing thing, and that we took a complex problem of how to secure Kubernetes, how to find misconfigurations, and how to fix them, and we created this very, very simple product that you can work with and understand in 5 minutes.
So typically, and the demo might cover this, but typically your client base, would it be enterprise level customers, or could it go right down to startups?
We have different customers. When someone registers to the product, we offer an onboarding session with me. I talk with the users. I can tell you that some of them are security companies, large security companies. Some of them are large banks. And some of them are small startups that are just starting to use Kubernetes. So it varies a lot. And that's the exciting part, because we're not creating something that is tailored for these big enterprises, banks, and we're also creating something that if you're a small startup and you have one cluster and you don't have 10 DevOps guys that can jump in and understand what they're doing, you can still work with the product because it's super simple and super easy to operate.
Perfect. So over to you. Would you like to show us what it can do?
Yeah, sure. So it's going to be not slide screen. So I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you see it. It's this screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. We'll take this here. Okay, share screen. Share. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, I think that it's an issue with my Mac, so let me try to solve it while we speak. No, it should work. I don't know why it is not showing my screen.
Failing that, just email it over to me and I can share it on mine.
I think it will be an issue because probably you don't have any cluster running.
Correct.
And you will not be able to show it. But it's strange because I do see that it is sharing my screen. For some reason, settings. No. So I'm sorry about that. For some reason, we cannot see the screen. Maybe, what we can do. Oh, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Cool. So let me. Okay. So this is Kubescape.
Brilliant.
Great. So this is Kubescape. I'm going to start from the beginning. As I said, it's an open source project. We have almost 6K stars for the project. We work in 2 weeks cadence. 2 weeks cadence where we publish new features and capabilities. And it's very, very easy to start to work with. What I will do now, I will deploy Kubescape with you. And so basically, you just copy this line. You go to any environment that you have. In my case, I use GKE as a demo cluster. So in a second, when it will provision my cloud, I will paste it. And you can see that in 1 second, I have the Kubescape running, and I just copy the command. I will explain, maybe later I will explain the syntax of the command. But basically, that's it. Now I'm running Kubescape. I'm scanning my cluster for a misconfiguration. I'm not only scanning my Kubernetes manifest files, but I'm also scanning my API server settings and the worker nodes. This is why you see here this error, which is totally unrelated to the demo, but it is related to the state of my cluster. And you will see that in less than 5 minutes, I get a clear understanding of what's going on in my cluster. And you can see we have a summary table that tells you, these are the critical controls. We call it controls, and I will show you in a second how they look. So these are the critical controls, and these are the resources, the number of resources that failed, and the resources I scanned. And basically for each resource, I get, for example, here I'm using ARMO CD. So it's showing me what are the problems, and I can, even from the command line, I can read about these problems, or I can see why they are being created. So clicking here will show you what is this test, what is this control doing, and an example of how it should look and what should you do. And basically, we give you the ability to click here and move to the UI. And once you move to the UI, this is prod, but I'm going to show you the demo from dev because we're syncing dev today, and I think that it's cool to see new features that are going to come. So when you land in our UI, the SaaS platform, basically what you see if you have multiple clusters, you see this dashboard that gives you kind of the priorities, what you should fix first, and gives you high-level explanation of your status regarding controls and vulnerabilities, image vulnerabilities, open source vulnerabilities in your container images. Basically, Kubescape gives you the following capabilities. One is scan your manifest files, and as I mentioned, it's not only your manifest files. Scan your configuration, which is not only your manifest files, it's also your API server settings and your worker node settings. Then we have image scanning for open source vulnerabilities. We have a RBAC visualizer and a RBAC investigator, the role-based access control, which is a nightmare in Kubernetes, and I will show you how easy it is in Kubescape. These are two capabilities that we're adding today. One is code repository scanning, so you're able to use Kubescape to scan your code repositories. This is also available today, but the results are not sent to the UI, and this is the new capability that we're sending it to the UI. And the last thing is container image registry scanning. It's a new feature, new capability that you users asked us to add, and we gladly did it for you. Now, everything you need is here. And so, if you need something like, getting to contact us, opening a Git issue, you have it here. If you want to go and join our community and see what's new and register to our Discord channel, do that. And if you want to send us mail, you can do that as well. Here we have videos, really, really short videos, not something super complex, on how you can do things, interesting integrations with Kubescape. Like here you can see we have a Prometheus integration, we have Lens integration. You can use it for, for CI/CD pipelines, etc., etc. So everything is here. And of course, you can read the documentation, and we are very, very proud of the documentation that we have. You can see all these CI/CD integrations. We give you the exact scripts that you can take and use them your own. And we document all the different controls that we're using. So definitely use that. And then the settings. The settings shows you basically everything you need to do in one-time settings. So we have the list of controls. You can see an example of things that we're checking, like whether your kubelet is using TLS authentication, or whether you have an application that has a remote code execution, etc., etc. I always tell customers, users, go look at the configuration, the default configuration, fix them, adjust them to your needs, to your organization. Like the images from a loud registry, in my case, it will be different from your case. So just go ahead and change it and fix it. And then read these controls and make sure that what is interesting for you and what is not interesting for you. And you can create this framework. And framework, basically, it's the aggregation of all the controls that are of interest for you. So we can call it Joe, and you can choose whatever you want. And then you can start small and grow in time. So, I can go to controls and add to Joe more controls. And then I can use Joe, the framework Joe, to also scan. So I can say to Kubescape, scan framework Joe, and Kubescape will scan this framework, and we will see it in a second in the UI. So that's basically how it works. And the cool thing about Kubescape that you can use it in many places. And the example that I showed you, this Joe framework, you can use it as part of your lens. You can use it as part of your Visual Studio extension. You can use it as part of any CI/CD pipeline. So you can use it across your entire SDLC. And just watch the integration in the settings, the integration section, and you can go ahead and create these integrations, and you can see. Oh, I did a mistake. Frame didn't work. Oh, frame. Okay, and you can do these integrations and scan using this framework anywhere. When it comes to configuration scanning, we show you the different clusters that you have, if you have multiple clusters, and then we show you the results of the scans, the results of the different scans. You can choose which graph you want to show, or which framework you want to follow. And in my case, I'm using an old Helm chart, so I might want to fix that as well. And I have all the history of the scans, so I can go and jump to any one of my previous scans. And we're showing you drifts. So here, for example, you can see that my previous scan was better than this one, and I have 22 failed resources for host path mount, which basically means that I have a workload that is mounting the host path, which is not best practice. And if I click on this number 22, Kubescape will be able to show me a couple of very important things. So first of all, it will show me the drift. It takes a little bit time when you're sharing your screen, so sorry about that. And meanwhile, okay. So one of the cool things that we do is we show you the list of resources that failed this specific control. You can say, okay, I'm cool with that. So you're marking it as exception. And next time you will not see these resources failing. And we show you the new resource that is failing from a previous scan, so it's easy to understand what is causing it. And if you don't understand why this is creating this issue, you can click on this icon, and we open the object for you, and we show you why it is failing. It is failing because the host path here is marked as etc PKI, and now I can call the developer. I can ask him if it's mandatory, if he wants to change it. In the next release, I will be able to open a Jira ticket from here or to send it to the persona using Slack or Teams or whatever. And if it's okay, it's legit, I can put it as exception as well. So that's basically the configuration scanning, and we show you the different indications of different things that you need to do. So go ahead and read the documentation and look at it. You can export these fields. We have also the ability to give you resource view. So here the focus is I ran a test. It failed on 123 resources, but here I can look at a specific resource like this deployment and see which controls are failing. And I can do the same trick. I can look here and say, why it is failing. It is failing because I'm missing these 2 lines. Green means that it is missing something. The original YAML file was missing something, while pink means that something is wrong in the line that I had before, and I need to go and fix it. So that's basically, again, in a very, very high level configuration scanning. Image scanning, you can see the different images that I ran scan. I can, tell my team I want to focus on critical high vulnerabilities that has fix and a remote code execution. And if I click on a specific image, I get it quite easily, and I can now do the same thing, say that I want to focus on critical vulnerabilities, and I can do that as well. And again, here I will have collaboration sharing option that I will be able to share it with my team, and I can export this list or set exceptions as well from here. And I can see the trend, the graph trend. So for example, here you can see that this specific workload changed over time. So the image tag changed, and you see from the change how it influenced the number of vulnerabilities that I had. And this is super cool, super easy, something that no one else is doing. When you go to a role-based access control, I want to show this cluster. So when we talk about role-based access control, it's very, very complicated to understand. In some cases, it's mandatory to watch highly privileged roles. And this is also true in Kubernetes. So we created built-in queries that you're able to run. The C ones are also having controls that are equivalent to them, but we show it in a graphical way. So if I want to see who is my cluster admin, just one click, I see the people that are cluster admin in my case. And that's one capability. The second capability, I can ask who has the ability to create, get, let's say, secrets. And these are all the different service accounts, groups that can do that. The cool thing that we do is we double click also on service accounts. So if a service account is connected to a workload, we also show the workload. And the really, really nice capability that I love is the ability to investigate. So I can start with the user. I always show this misconfiguration. I reported it to Google, but for some reason they didn't fix it. So I can see here that I have a user. This user is a built-in user for GKE. And you can see that basically it has 2 misconfigurations. The first misconfiguration, and again, just creating this view is amazing, because if you want to understand this, you need to do so many kubectl commands and have sticky notes to understand it, while I show it to you visually, and it's really, really easy to grasp and understand. So you can see here 2 misconfiguration. One is this role is shadowing this role, so I don't understand why you need both. And then the last one is that you can clearly see that this user is bounded to these 4 roles 3 of them are narrowing down the ability to do things in the cluster, but the matter of fact is that this user is a cluster admin, and all these roles are useless. They mean nothing at the end of the day, because this user can do anything. And I think that, if I'm trying to understand what the user did, probably the user started with something simple, had some bug, created this role, forgot to delete this one, solved something, evolved to something else, had some challenge with the existing roles, so we just added cluster admin, and that's how we got to this situation. Classical misconfiguration, everything works, everything is amazing, but probably someone should look at it and narrow down the capability of this specific user. The last 2 things that I want to cover are the repository scan. Again, this is something that you can do today. Kubescape supports the ability to scan code repos even today. But the new thing, and I'm sorry that I don't have an example because this is something fresh out of the oven. The idea is that you can scan your code repository, Git repositories, and see the results here. And we show you the distribution according to different owners and the drifts between the different objects, which is really, really cool. If you can learn a lot about the people that do all the commits on these YAML files, and you can understand who doesn't have the knowledge on Kubernetes, and you can educate him and improve his capabilities when it comes to configuring YAML files and Helm charts. And the last capability is container image registries, image registry scanning. Same capabilities. We're creating here a layer, a graph, which is a little bit different than what we have in the other image scanning and here as well. And you can see almost the same capabilities, but now we're scanning a registry, a repository, and the images in it. That's it. I think it was clear enough. I know I ran, since we talked about like 15 minutes, I ran and covered a lot of topics, but I hope it was clear enough, and that you did get in a nutshell what the Kubescape is doing. And I urge you, go ahead, try it yourself, read the documentation, watch the videos, and if you have any questions, something is missing, something is not clear, you can always ping me. It's Amir K at armosec.io. Now to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. I actually had a question right at the top. You said about open source and how the business is open source, and I wondered how important is open source to you to remain open source, and what has that allowed the business to do?
Okay, so open source is part of our mission as a company, and the important aspect for it is that we want to democratize the ability to, one of the things that I'm, again, my observation is that commercial companies are releasing open source niche teasers that users in the community are using, and they're getting some value out of it, but the value ends somewhere, and it ends. It's like watching a movie, and you get to these cliffhangers, right? So it's like a cliffhanger. They want you to move to their commercial product, and I think that the important part for us is that we want to create a product which is open source. We want you to be able to take one product and enjoy all the value that you want. And it's very important for us. And we want to engage with the community, and we want people to contribute. So if you're following Kubescape, you can see that, for example, the maintainers of Prometheus on Kubernetes, they contacted us. They said, we want to do something with you. We created together this this integration. We showed it in KubeCon, and we are very excited to do these things. We did the same thing with the Lens project. And again, if someone is missing some capability and wants to create an integration, either to contribute it or just as a requirement, we're very, very open to it. So open source is very important for us. It's one of the DNAs of the company is being an open source company.
Brilliant. I think it's a fantastic USP as well for any customers and prospective customers. Yeah. So that rounds us off very nicely, actually. So thank you so much for that demo. And just one more time for anyone that didn't hear it, how is the best way to reach out to you?
It can be, opening an issue in Git or contacting me directly. It's Amir K at armosec.io. Don't send me commercials. Don't try to sell me other products. If you try Kubescape and you have any suggestion or any problem, feel free to contact me. I'm very responsive, but don't take it as, don't take advantage of it.
Brilliant. So no sales.
Don't sell me anything. I'm not buying.
Brilliant. Well, Amir, once again, thanks so much. And anybody, please feel free to reach out to Amir directly. But all that's left for me to say is thanks and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.